The number in the thumbnail isn't the number on his football jersey, his lucky number, or his body count. It's his age. Yeah, the intro also mentioned that, so maybe this isn't the massive insane reveal I want it to be, but whatever. In the dark depths of Twitter, or X if you don't have a lot of time, there's an account that shares pictures of footballers who look way older than they actually are. At first they only included players from the 80s, but they've since branched out. That's some next level diversification right there. I looked at every player posted by the account and sorted them all by nationality in a Google document, which I then converted into a pie chart. Here's the top 3 countries that produces the most badly aged footballers. Italy gets bronze, and to no one's surprise, Scotland and England are number 2 and 1 respectively. In fact, if you count the UK together, it makes up a comfortable absolute majority. Is it because the account is run by a Brit and mostly followed by Brits who care more about British footballers and are thus more inclined to find and share pictures of British footballers aging badly? No, it's because Brits age much worse than the rest of the world. But what does it mean to age badly? Balding, wrinkles, mustache, bad skin? I personally belong to the camp that thinks balding hair is unfair and, while it can't be neglected entirely, still should not be overly considered when assessing how badly someone ages. This is why Charlie Brown is one of my all-time badly aged goats. This 22-year-old has a great head of hair but still looks 45. A true legend. There is a reason he was featured in the intro. However, he is yet to win the badly aged FA Cup. Yes, of course that exists. But unlike the real FA Cup, this one is determined with Twitter polls instead of football matches. Slightly different. The first edition was held in 2020 and saw Nivaldo beat Ernie McGar in a highly contested affair, having eliminated another Scot by the name of Hugh Sproat in the semi-finals. Indeed, as I've already said, Scotland is a hotbed for badly aged footballers. Though England is the number 1 contributor to this talent pool, they've never even reached the semi-finals of the FA Cup. They're not just underperformers in real football. The second FA Cup was won by the Welshman Peter Rodriguez, who outshone Italy's Giuliano Castoldi in the final. One of the losing semi-finalists was Davy Robb of Scotland. Of course, not having a single Scot reach the semi-finals would be a catastrophic flop for such a powerhouse nation. The second losing semi-finalist makes me incredibly proud to be Swedish, as Sven-Gunnar Larsson reached the top 4. However, we went a step further the next season, going all the way to the final thanks to Birger Stenman, who controversially lost to Jimmy Bedwetter. Oh, I meant Ledbetter, sorry. A complete robbery, I know. People must have voted with their hearts instead of their eyes. I know I've earlier said that balding shouldn't be overly considered, but look at Stenman's other traits too. Plus, he's 6 years younger than Ledbetter in these pictures. As I said, a complete robbery. There's been some other controversies. For example, regarding whether players truly have aged badly or not. Peter Tokesey, or Tokesey, certainly looks older than 23 here, but by the time he was in his 60s, he's actually handsome for his age. Giuseppe Bergomi is a similar story. He looks way older than 19 in this picture, but still became one dapper 59-year-old. Sometimes I even get personally involved in the controversial action. Another controversy is that there hasn't been another badly aged FA Cup since 2022, but I guess Winston has more important things to do in life than organize fictional, online reverse beauty contests with former footballers determined by Twitter polls. But I don't have anything better to do, and by now I assume we're all thinking exactly the same thing. What country would win a badly aged World Cup? I mean, it's either England or Scotland, let's face it. But it's still interesting to see how the entire tournament pans out. A no-nonsense, proper World Cup. 32 teams divided into 8 groups of 4 with one host. Round of 16, quarterfinals, semifinals, and a Dr. Pepper. No, a final, of course.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Instead of using Twitter polls, this World Cup will simply be based on my vast, badly aged ball knowledge. The participating countries are selected based on how many players they have as posted by the badly aging footballer's Twitter account. For example, 19 Italian players have been shared by the account, which qualifies them for this World Cup. Scotland has 68 such players, which, needless to say, is enough to earn a spot at the tournament. To make this World Cup truly global, I first selected all the non-European countries, since that continent is just so dominant. The remaining 20 spots were filled by European nations. Still with me? Good. Now let's see how the group stage unfolded. I can't handle the suspense. Hosts England topped Group A as expected, defeating Northern Ireland 18-0 in the opening game, which saw Alan Woodward net 11 hat-tricks in his beautiful grey mane. This was followed by an 84-0 triumph over my beloved Sweden, where I mean Brian Kilcline, stamped his authority on the game, along with 83 other players who also scored. An 86-0 victory over Canada cemented England's perfect group phase, and ensured Steve Lynex headed into the knockouts with confidence dripping from his thin hair. Sweden were hailed as a dark horse by many, with experts citing Birger Stenman's hairline and Sven-Gunnar Larsson's teeth as particularly lethal assets. Indeed, this duo was crucial in Sweden's 2-0 win over Canada. However, a 6-2 loss to a Northern Ireland spearheaded by Eric McManus ended Sweden's World Cup dream. It was devastating for me to not be able to represent Sweden at this tournament. I've always dreamt of being a badly aged footballer, but let's face it, I'm just way too handsome. Northern Ireland previously hammered Canada 7-1 to advance in second place. Canada's golden boy, or golden man, Bruce Wilson, was not enough for them to reach the knockout stage. Group B was won by a Charlie Brown-inspired Scotland, who was particularly potent in the opening 62-1 triumph over Spain. Ahead of the World Cup, the badly aged Serbian FA desperately tried to recruit England's Steve Ogrizovic, as he was eligible to represent Serbia through his Serbian father. He declined, but that didn't stop Serbia from defeating the United States 2-1 in their premiere match. However, his absence was put on devastating display in the second match, where Scotland obliterated Serbia 66-0, largely thanks to individual brilliance by Ali Brazil. Now that's a name, if I've ever heard one. Spain bounced back on matchday 2 with a convincing 5-0 victory over the Americans, who solely relied on Wes Wade. But of course, in a team sport such as badly aged football, it's all about the team effort. Agustin Abadia's mustache filled the opposition with fear and was instrumental in Spain's success, which also saw them beat America 4-0. But Scotland's 67-0 victory over the US, featuring a Jerry O'Brien masterclass, ensured the Scots were the group's undisputed number 1. Poland were big favourites to top Group C, but DR Congo were hailed as a serious contender, especially given the experience their squad had together, stretching back to under 16 level. Yeah. Indeed, Congo put up a serious fight versus the Poles and ran out 4-3 victors. However, Poland had a solid team and bounced back with 5-0 and 7-1 wins over Slovakia and Iran respectively, inspired by the likes of Andrzej Sharmak's nailed the pronunciation there, nose, and Sigmund Kukla's forehead. Congo maintained the form shown in the opening game and defeated Iran 5-0 before brushing aside Slovakia 5-1. Critics argued that the Iranian Ali Reza Khourshidi's hairline was too good for a badly aged World Cup, and Iran's bad performance, which even saw them lose 1-0 to Slovakia, didn't exactly dispel those sentiments. John Pirvanic's sideburns were not enough for Slovakia to reach the knockout stage. Group D was controversial before it even began. Mere weeks prior to the World Cup, Dave Langan left the Irish squad due to being offered a leading role in a big HBO crime drama television series. Ireland struggled to cope without him and lost 8-4 to Germany, who possessed the likes of Uli Stilke's thin blonde hair and Lothar Huber's chin. The Germans steamrolled the rest of the group by defeating Mexico 10-0 and Peru 9-1. Ireland picked themselves back up and also won the remaining group stage matches, though by smaller margins. Mexico and Peru finished dead last, their only points earned in a draw between the two, where Alfredo Jimenez and Alfredo Casada got on the scoresheet. Group E was dominated by the Dutch, who eased past Argentina, Denmark and Croatia with emphatic scorelines. John Met God was especially godly.
This guy stinks!
Argentina recovered in the remaining 2 matches and finished in second, despite calls that Carlos McAllister should be banned since his son had not aged badly enough. Denmark could be proud of their 2-1 victory over Croatia, but neither of the two advanced. Pictures of Lars Bastrup crying after Denmark's 4-2 loss to Argentina became iconic. In Group F, Belgium were led by the talismanic 2-time Ballon d'Or winner Julian Kohls, who inspired the Belgians to wins over Australia, Ukraine and Nigeria. But make no mistake, this was a unified team effort. Ukraine placed their hope in Vladimir Besonov, who's seen some things. He also saw his Ukraine edge out Nigeria 2-1. Nevertheless, Australia were comfortably the second best team in the group, highlighted by their superb performances versus Nigeria and Ukraine, where Todd Clark's mustache-decorated smile was very prolific. The Nigerian teenage sensation Silas Nwankwo won the hearts of everyone though. Wales were not just big favourites to win Group G, but genuine title contenders. The star quality of their FA Cup champion Peter Rodriguez was perfectly accompanied by a cohesive core of hard-working, badly aged players. Saudi Arabia, Norway and Chile were all easily defeated. The legendary Norwegian Ballon d'Or nominee Rune Stakkeland gave a masterclass in badly aged football as his nation eclipsed Chile. Still, his individual prowess is nothing compared to the badly oiled, rusty, geriatric machine that is Saudi Arabia, who hammered the Chileans and the Norwegians. Considered the GOAT by many, Nivaldo was expected to carry his Brazil. They did edge out Finland, but perhaps the pressure was too much to handle for the FA Cup champion and 3-time Ballon d'Or winner, as the Brazilians suffered subsequent losses to Italy and Portugal. This group was always Italy's to win with their powerful, out-of-date squad. They demolished every opponent, while Portugal eased past Finland to also reach the knockouts. It's finally time for the knockout stage, and as you can see, the venues follow the theme of this World Cup. Anyways, England maintained their group stage form with a respectable 82-0 win over Spain. And yes, I know these scorelines are completely insane, but the defensive mindset is yet to reach badly aged football. DR Congo remained Africa's last representatives, and the stakes became evident by the frenzy with which they played. The luck of the Irish wasn't enough for the Leprechauns, as Congo were more skillful in the penalty shootout. Scotland also proved to be a bit more skillful than Northern Ireland, whom they defeated 50-4. Germany's 6-4 triumph over neighbours Poland was much less of a foregone conclusion, as was the Netherlands' victory against Germany, despite calls of banning the Dutch national team since their country's name is too hard to pronounce. Wales' marvellously hideous team made easy work of Portugal, even though Antonia Borges' mustache and wrinkles gave a heroic performance. South America's lone hope Argentina lost 10-4 to Belgium in a thrilling encounter, while Saudi Arabia's grey generation met their match in Italy, who emerged as a serious title contender. Congo's Cinderella run came to an end in the quarter-finals, but the elderly leopards could keep their heads higher than Alan Cork's hairline. Things got hairy in the match between the Dutch and Wales, which was ultimately won by the Welsh after a long night. Longer than Henry Smith's mullets, if you could call it that proved to be instrumental in Scotland's 17-3 win against Germany. The last quarter-final saw Italy reign supreme over Belgium, despite an inspired performance by Walter de Greef. There's only 4 teams left in this intense tournament now. England's semi-final was played at the Den, giving the Millwall players extra motivation as they edged out Wales 44-6 to reach the final. Ken Mulhern made several heroic saves for the hosts, leading to major controversy as critics argued he hadn't aged badly enough, saying that, quote, graying hair and an inappropriate haircut isn't enough to completely undermine his otherwise respectable appearance, especially given how handsome he was just a few years ago, and also became in his later years, at least for his age, end quote. Oldham's Boundary Park had the dishonour of staging the second semi-final. Scotland pushed the boundaries of what was possible in badly aged football, emphatically defeating Italy 34-9. The Italians then won the bronze match against Wales, but who cares? It's time for the final. It was the perfect final, featuring England and Scotland, the two unquestionably best teams. Well, or worst, depending on how you look at it. If you looked at the match, you were in for a real treat. The 23-year-old Alan Kay struck fear in the opposition and enabled the Scots to go in front in the historic final. But Eric Gates unlocked the gates to the Scottish defense and turned the game around for England, who ultimately won 22-17. So yeah, what a dramatic tournament. One for the ages. Badly aged football is truly a fascinating sport. I wonder how these videos will age.